All right, friends, let's figure out how to do number 2. I'm going to start the same way by drawing the line down. I'm then going to look at what I've got in front of me, and I will highlight the variable to just remind me that that's what I'm trying to get alone. I'm trying to get that term alone and then ultimately the g alone. My next step will be to figure out what do I want to get rid of. It's the minus 8. The minus 8 belongs on the other side with the 56, so I am going to add 8 to both sides. This will give me 8g equals 64. I then hopefully know that 8g really means 8 times g. And so again, I'm trying to get the g alone, so instead of multiplying by 8, the opposite operation would be to divide by 8, and I would end up with 64 divided by 8, or 8, which is the final answer. You definitely could have taken a first step of dividing every single thing by 8 and then going from there, but this is probably the more traditional approach. All right, friends, if you've clicked on the video, it means you have some questions on number 3. Number 3 is a little awkward because we have a constant before a variable on the left side. So normally it goes, coefficient, variable, and then plus or minus a constant. But it's kind of reversed here, but don't let that freak you out. It doesn't change much. It really doesn't. In this situation, we're still just trying to get x alone. We're trying to get that guy all by itself. And you're going to do that by doing the opposite operation, okay? So first thing you're going to do is try to get the clump or the term that has the variable all by itself. And how you're going to do that is to get rid of the 5. The 5 is being added. How do I know the 5 is being added? Because there's a little plus sign here that you can't see that's automatically associated with a constant with no number in front of it, okay? So if there's nothing in front of it, we know it's a plus sign. So how are we going to get rid of a plus 5? We are going to subtract 5. That will give us 13x equals negative 26. We now are trying to get the x all alone, and hopefully from the last video you remember that whenever a variable is right next to a constant, that coefficient is multiplying by the variable. And how are we going to get rid of that multiplying by 13? The opposite operation, which is divide by 13. So in this situation, we end up with x on the left side because the 13's cross out, and on the right side, we get negative 26 divided by 13, or negative 2. Don't forget that when you have opposite operations, you end up with a negative, and hopefully you remember this Mickey Mouse thing we did in class. If you don't, I'm just going to tell you it real quick. This is the whole idea that when you have a negative and a positive, you're going to get a negative, and that's what happened here. We had a negative and a positive, so the solution then became the negative. All right, friends, if you've made it here, you've made it to the last question, and this is round 4. Okay, so this one is mildly more complicated. It's mildly more complicated because you need to combine like terms. A like term is a term that either has the exact same variables, x and x, or are constants. So in this case, I have a negative 3x and a positive 5x. So I am going to start by combining those two first. I'm going to put this and this together, and it's basically like negative 3 plus 5 or 5 minus 3. Either way, you are most definitely going to get 2x. The minus 2 is still staying there. We haven't moved it. We haven't done anything with it, so it's still there. And now we're looking to get the x alone. What do we need to do is get rid of the minus 2. How do I get rid of a minus 2? Opposite operation, which means add 2. That leaves us with these guys gone, and 2x equals 12 plus 2, or 14. You are almost there. At this point, hopefully you know that when a coefficient is standing right next to a variable this close, it means they're multiplying. How do I get rid of multiplying by 2? Divide by 2. So I end up with these 2's, again, crossing out. Lots of 2's today. And on the right side, 14 divided by 2, or 7. All right, if you landed here, that means you were brave enough to try the word problem, and I will do my best to break it down for you. So it says, always read it through the first time. If there's anything interesting to you or things that you think are important, grab a highlighter, grab a pencil, underline those things. So here we go. Cassie spent $495 on an Xbox. I'm going to highlight $495 because I'm guessing that's something that matters and it's money. So I'm just going to highlight that blue, and any other money I'm also going to highlight blue, but we'll go on. Cassie spent $495 on an Xbox and $3 and 3 video games. So she bought 1 Xbox and 3 video games. I am highlighting the label with it so that I know what's going on. The Xbox box was $300. This is money again, so I'm just going to highlight that blue just to remind myself that that's talking about money. And each game was the same price. This is interesting. Each game was the same price. How much did each game cost? Okay, so I'm going to draw a little sketch for myself so I know what's going on here. Cassie spent, oh, I'm not writing with a pen. Let's try that with a pen. Cassie spent $495 total on Xbox and 3 video games. So I'm just going to draw boxes for this because this is how I sort of think about things. So she spent a bunch of money on an Xbox, and then she got 3 video games. 1, 2, 3. I have them all green, and they're supposed to be the same size, but obviously my drawing skills today aren't the strongest. But these are the 3 video games. So I'm just going to write GGG because those are the games. And there's my Xbox. I do know one more piece of information. So I took care of the $495. I took care of the 3 video games. But I know that the Xbox cost $300. So where it says Xbox, I'm going to put $300. Okay. I now think I have some sense of what's going on here. Cassie spent $300 plus a game, plus a game, plus a game, and the whole thing would equal $495. So to write the equation for this, I would say 300, the Xbox, plus 1, 2, 3 games came to a total of $495. I'm now going to solve this just like I've solved every other problem up until this point. I'm going to first combine like terms and write 300 plus 3G. And now I'm going to try to get the G alone. I'm going to undo. The 300 is adding to the 3G, so I am going to subtract 300 from both sides. A little bit running out of room here. And I end up with 3G, because this will cross out, equals 195. I then notice that 3 and the G are close to each other, which means they're multiplying. What's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So I am going to not divide by G. Having one of those days where I'm doing things backwards. I'm going to divide by 3. Right, that makes more sense. That would get my G alone here. And then I'm going to get a little calculator out so I don't make any mistakes here, except I can't find a calculator. 195 divided by 3. Let's see if I can do this right. See, 6 is 18. Oh, again, I'm not writing with a pen. So 6 and I think 5. So I think each video game costs $65. So I might write per game. Thanks for listening.